I'm your host, Effie Pilarinu, and today I have the pleasure to have with us Tram Anh Nguyen. I don't know if I pronounced the last name correctly. Welcome, Tram Anh.
No, thanks a lot, Effie, for having me. It's a great pleasure to be with you.
Thank you for making the time. And I know that it's tough. You've just returned from Singapore, from the Singapore Fintech Festival. So the jet lag plus all the intensity of the event is definitely something that takes a toll, right?
Yes, actually, I just came back yesterday, so I'm a little bit jet lag indeed. But when I received your invitation, I couldn't say no, so I'm very pleased to be here. And yes, it was just phenomenal. Singapore Fintech Festival this year, was I think having been to every single one of them. It's an event I never missed since the beginning, 2016. 16, 17, 18, 19, and then after that we moved online. And then this year was the first one after 3 years, and I think it was really, really big. It seems that, it was even bigger than 19. And, I would love to share, with, everyone.
Before we deep dive, let's tell our audience, first of all, you are the co-founder of CFTE, the Center for Financial Technology Entrepreneurship. We'll have the opportunity to discuss about your mission. You've also been an ambassador to the Singapore Fintech Festival for years now. And this, as you said, is the 7th version. And I understand from everybody and from what I'm reading online that it was a huge success. First of all, by numbers, we're talking about 2,000 organizations, 500 speakers and so on, despite the fact that at the same time, more or less, there was the Hong Kong FinTech Summit and the Web Summit. I mean, that's a lot of fin and a lot of tech going on at the same time. And despite that, it seems that it was a big success. I don't know if it has to do with the theme. The theme was, if I may read it, it's building resilient business models amid volatility and change. I guess we're all familiar with the perma change and perma volatility and perma crisis, right? The condition. So where shall we start? Let's start. Give us a sense of how big was it, how the energy there, just a sense of being there.
Yes, no, it was just phenomenal. It was one of these amazing fintech reunion. So in terms of number, you are totally right. We had 60,000 attendees, 850 speakers, a representation of 160 countries being there. It took 5 days, so it was full week with a lot of excellent. The first 2 days actually was 20 innovation labs. So all the innovation labs from the banks, from the tech, were open to everyone to come and really go into every single labs to really talk to the people who are doing it. So there were lots of share of knowledge, meeting with the startups. So it was really, really good, to go. So our team at CFT, we had to split ourselves and we went to discover all the 20 innovation labs in 2 days. So that was really
Tram Anh, these innovation labs were from banks in the region, in Singapore, or in the Asia region, broadly speaking?
No, it was in Singapore. So all the innovation lab from the largest banks, from the largest tech company, payments company, were open to the public. So you just go, and there were lots of sessions where you can learn about what the banks or the tech company or were doing. and you can meet the startup as well. So it was really, really informative. And it was throughout the 2 days, and it was like thousands of people who can go and discuss with the head of innovation or the people driving change, etc. And it was really, really good. Indeed, the key topics discussed this year was very unique. As you know, we've been through all these, 2-3 years of, COVID, etc. The topic was resilience, and it was about viable business models. We had also, but we can discuss more about blockchain, ESG, innovation, and much more. And this year, I have to say, was very special for CFT. Of course, me being an ambassador, it's about bringing the whole, community to know more about what's happening. But this year, CFT was proud to also be involved as knowledge partner. So what does it mean is that this year was very different from perhaps the previous years, is that SFF had the 11D Insight Forum, which is a forum who a lot of people from the central banks, policymakers, CEOs of organization and startup all together discuss different topics. And the idea is to, after that, have roundtables where some very deep discussion depending on different type of area. But for us at CFT, we run a roundtable on the new skills gap in financial services with 21 senior leaders. And after this very constructive and insightful discussion with people from everywhere around the world, we will be publishing a white paper. And the idea was a lot of discussion on different topics, CBDCs, open banking, talent, etc. A lot of share of knowledge will be published after that as white papers. So that was really unique this time, because it was the first time that happened during the Singapore Fintech Festival. But of course, with a lot of other session, a lot of plenary knowledge. 11D did an amazing job creating.
11D for our audience is what? Is it a company that organizes the conference there, the summit, or what exactly is it?
Yes, so 11D is the organization by open or launched by MAS with the idea to be a knowledge forum where they gather policymakers, regulators, CEOs of organizations, C-suite leaders, all together to discuss some topic that they identified are really, really important to the industry, but where they can really push to bring more thought into discussing and bringing a lot of different views together, so that after that, a white paper will be published on 11D, backed by MAS, with the idea after that to perhaps, bring some thought leadership, but more than that, what is really happening? What can we push to encourage more? And in our site, it was on new skills. How do you upskill, reskill, creating talent in the fintech and the financial services, and how to do it was because we know about the why, is it important, but those discussion is how to, it's share of practices among the industry together.
Very interesting. I mean, I understand because during the Milan FinTech Summit, which was earlier in October, and I was attending, Mohanty Sopendu was there, and he did the opening keynote. So he clearly outlined their 5 sort of pillars of their mission and how they're going forward. Talent was one of them, of course, and this new, I would say, vision of connecting the digital asset space with sustainability it was a big one. And he also clearly said it, that this, to arrive at this vision, it's something that has happened recently. It's not, from the start of their fintech journey. So I understand at the festival that these two thematics of, you want to call it digital assets or tokenized assets or blockchain for finance, whatever the umbrella term is, and ESG, those were the two big themes, correct? That's, yeah.
Yes, no, totally, Effie, and I have to credit, Sotmandu Mohanty, the Chief Fintech Officer of MAS, the regulator in Singapore, who 2016 had this big vision, to bring, the whole ecosystem and the fintech, the whole industry to come together to exchange and to do. And since then, it's been growing and growing and growing. He had this big ambition to bring the whole ecosystem together. And I think that we need to thank him, to allowing this discussion, not only at the Singapore or Asia level, but everyone, 150 countries to come together. And you are totally right. This is the two theme that he wants to focusing on, but it was really, the theme of the SFF as well. The two biggest theme this year was around digital assets and ESG. I say more than half of the topics and presentation were around these two themes, from Web3 to blockchain to crypto, and from sustainability to climate and social impact. There were actually this year very unique. There was a stream and a pavilion where you have an area just dedicated on ESG. I heard that there were lots and lots of startups on ESG, and people are starting to really and some share of knowledge, because it was a theme that was also in 2019, but this year I think there's a maturity of the startups, and I was not there to see the startup. I couldn't, but I heard that it was big. It was really strong in terms of share of knowledge, and the startup has now a sense of maturity, so it's good. For digital asset, there was no sign of let's say slowing down. The topic was really strong. I think it was based on the topic was stable coins, the future that is your money, and it was a consensus that we are in the really early days of innovating today's money and financial system for the world of Web3. But two things I would say, just to perhaps highlight, is tokens that power new energy technology will exist alongside stable coins, and there were a lot of share of knowledge about tokenization, CBDCs, and a lot of institutional involvement on blockchain, Web3 initiative, which are now was before proof of concept, and now they are really a great example that can be shared, that are now really growing fast. And those are projects like Project Warden, Project Orchid, Project Urban, Pathior, and Project Dunbar. But I just mentioned, those five, but I will welcome your audience to go and check out. But those are now not proof of concept, it's just becoming huge. On the ESG side, it was definitely a very large focus on the plenaries. And as I mentioned early on, 11D Insight Forum, and also general during discussion, the different session. The intent is there. People really want to do something on ESG. Mm-hmm. And among the exhibitors, Green FinTech was the first ESG category, and it was largely the priority and way behind others such as data or analytic, blockchain or payments. So I think there is much more things to do now on ESG, and it's not now something small, like you put on the side and you say, okay, it's something nice to have and we'll put it there. But now it's even bigger than digital asset. So they are now, to summarize what I want to share is that now it's something that people really focus in. The money is put on ESG. There are some great startup, and I invite you to go and check, but there are some good startup that are starting to do really, really well on that space.
To work.
Yeah.
The other theme, Tram Anh, that I get the sense, and again, I wasn't there, but just from the coverage, the media that I'm reading and the social discussions, is this theme that really Singapore is a great leader and example of the network effects and the power of collaborations between the private and the public sector. And when I talk about collaborations, I'm really talking about technology and implementation. And I understand the MAS continues on that front. Their example, they announced a collaboration between the MAS and the Ministry of Finance, because they want to digitize bank guarantees. They're also extending their existing, what's it called, the SG Findex, which is the Singapore Financial Data Exchange, which already has thousands of monthly users where people can access information, be it, from their ID, the financial data. Now they're extending it for insurance. So these are great examples of what private sector and public sector can do together and really unlock network effects, both for the individuals, us, the end consumers, right? But also for businesses and the new business models. So I wanted to hear from you whether you got that sense also from the festival that this is something that continues to be center, meaning that the industry understands that it is important. Nobody can make it alone.
Yes. Effie, you are a knowledge person. You know everything, and I'm I'm very impressed that you knew things that that not being there, but you are already a very great sense of knowledge. But yes, you're so right. You are so right, and the fact that you are sharing this example is really what we see in Singapore. That it was actually, as you said, announced from the Ministry of Finance and MAS about their willingness to be much more collaborative, so that they can do the initiative and this public and private collaboration is something we, being in education, in fintech, we see as well. And how do you make it scalable is to combine and work together between the public sector, the government, the central bank, the regulator, and working very closely with the industry, with the banks, the tech, the startup, the ecosystem, so that you can really have a strong understanding of what it needs and create something that has value. And we've seen this as a CFT is one of the, let's say, partner by providing education with the government in Singapore. And we've seen this alignment between the government and MAS with their training arm with IBF, and how they work collaboratively with all the banks, and to really create that focus so that there's really some value out of it. So yes, you're totally right. And this is something across, all the initiative that you were seeing, I guess, on blockchain, on digital asset and ESG, this willingness to combine and to collaborate between public and private, and it's always been the case, so that they can create a strong impact. And I've seen, I mean, being, you know, very close to industry myself, what I've seen is that it's like, let's say, I'll give an example, but the Singapore Fintech Association making a big partnership between Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam, and other countries, and with the idea to really collaborate so that they can make a much bigger impact and the share of knowledge and share. So that is really, really strong here when I see, you know, all this partnership and MOU signing is always how do you create together a strong impact is by partnership and collaboration. And that is been always the case, but even more today. And it was really the sense I felt this time is about having the views of everyone together so that we can make a bigger impact. And that was actually the why I think Elevanti was there as well, and to create that sense of bringing public and private together.
It's very interesting, and I'll be sort of watching on my radar whether there's a contagion of that type of culture, if you want, or mindset, because, you know, if we look, for example, in Europe, where we have so many countries, so many languages, so many startup hubs and so on, and very often we are replicating the same, you know, technology, the same business in a different country. And instead of competing, there could be, you know, partnerships and meaningful business partnerships and collaborations in all sorts of different sub-verticals, if you want, of fintech, because at the end that will help everybody, you know, grow and benefit. And I'm not sure whether that culturally is happening, because we have a very different business culture, and I don't think that here in the West we have realized really deeply under our skin that these advanced technologies are all collaborative technologies, all of them, right? And some of them to a much bigger degree, you know, blockchain, for example, the Internet of Things, they are hugely collaborative. But even if we look at the ESG, unless there's a collaborative ecosystem approach, we can't really get to the impact that we want, right? So we have to shift to that culture.
Yes, you are so right, and I think that's why it works very well here. It's, I mean, in Asia, what I see is that if you don't know how it works, just collaborate, and you will move much faster. You will grow. You will understand. You know, and it's very different from one market to another, one country to another. So why don't you go and collaborate with other countries? Instead of going there alone. So the collaboration is really, really strong. And that's how it helps some of the ESG companies or blockchain to scale very fast. So it's very much the collaboration. And I think this is probably what is missing in Europe. From what I see, I'm always, you know, inviting people to collaborate, but I think this is what helps to scale and to test and learn if it works very quickly, and spending a lot of time, you know, on discussing, you know. Yeah, there's probably one area that I would like to highlight that was perhaps not something that I heard from the previous, you know, years, but a strong focus on SME. Today, SME is a sector that has a huge problem of not being digital. How do you create much more impact by supporting the growth of SME by helping them to get very quickly into this digital world? Otherwise, they'll be doing still manual thing and everything. And that is just show the maturity of what we've seen, you know, over the past 6 years. But this year, it was one of the, you know, the main area I felt that I would like to see more understanding And I think from being an education, lack of knowledge. The knowledge gap is now become a huge critical thing, and educating the small and medium enterprise and even the small, businesses to how digital works, how fintech works could be one area I would see the growth in the next few years.
That's an excellent point, Raman. I was thinking that, when I started my focus on fintech, it was about educating the finance people, the traditional finance people, about fintech, and there's where the knowledge gap was. Now, I'm feeling that even the fintech, those that are educated in fintech, very quickly they're faced with another knowledge gap, be it the digital assets, be it, what's going on ESG, on Web3, on the metaverse, and so on, that is permeating all these industries. So the knowledge gap, instead of shrinking, is sort of becoming broader because of this acceleration of change, of the use cases of advanced technologies, and so on. And that is the truth, right?
You are so right, Effie, and even more today. You are seeing this huge knowledge gap, which is widening within organization, between countries, individuals. It was clear this time. I really felt that way. There were two levels. The one that are talking about a discussion between Grab and stablecoins in smart contract with the project Orchid, to question some of the, and on the other hand, some people were saying, what is fintech? So I was, there was so different level of understanding. So it seems to me that we are really seeing two totally distant worlds of finance now. And so if there was one thing I would love, to share, is that this urgency of upskilling the industry is even clearer. And that's why the roundtable at 11, the Insight Forum, gave a lot of ideas and best practice on how to make it happen. But this time was really clear. Some countries, if you talk about country level, are really progressing very fast. And today you have emerging countries which were present that were not present before. I have to say, my country of origin, Vietnam, for the past few years, I've been monitoring, their presence at SFF. And this year, a lot of them came. They want to learn, but there's this big gap. There's a big gap, and it's about how do you make it happen by bridging, and how do you bring that knowledge smaller. But it's not an easy job. It's not an easy job at all.
It's not an easy job, and as you said, the realization that this is the world that we will be living. There's no escape. It's not a question of, if it's a question at what pace and what exact form it will take. We could be discussing about what the mix between wallets and stable coins and CBDCs and cash will be. We all understand that at least for the next, let's say, 5 years, we will be living in a world that is hybrid, with all these, and we need to understand everything, right? Otherwise, we won't be able to keep pace, whether we are workers contributing and serving in these companies, or even if we are the end customers. How do we, in any business that we are, even if we're not in a finance business, that business is digitized and has finance, right?
Yes. You're right. And I think the past 6 or 10 years, you've seen the rise of the fintech, and with, 200 over 50 fintech unicorns. And at CFT, we are monitoring the evolution on a, let's say, daily or weekly basis. and that comes to the point that there are great opportunities, but it was through certain countries only. But what's going to happen in the next 10 years, I'm really, really bullish. I'm really, really optimistic, because now you are seeing lots of emerging markets from Southeast Asia, from India, Africa, Latam, now coming together and want to grow very quickly. And now you are seeing some really, really good and exciting project out of those countries. And I think we're going to be seeing from the Western world, let's say, and the biggest hub in fintech, consolidation, maturity, lots of great consolidation between the banks and the tech and the fintech. But in emerging market is going to be very exciting, and they're going to grow very, very fast, because I really see at the SFF this year the appetite of doing things, and it's come from the top, the country level, but the entrepreneurs are really keen to learn more. So I'm very, very optimistic on seeing those countries accelerating much, much faster. So it could happen in less than 2-3 years, seeing big things happening in those countries. But as you said, for me, it's about how do you create framework and talent for this industry that is growing in emerging market. There's a huge need for upskilling, reskilling, but also how do you get all the people to learn very fast, assisting individuals, corporate, governments to become much more digitally literate by upskilling. And so on our side, we have spent a lot of time creating ways to help people to understand digital much faster. And so we have created framework, and it was revealed during the SFF. It's the first industry mechanism to evaluate the skills required in fintech. I'll be very happy to share, but I think the framework, and that was one of the themes we discussed at Elevandi, but what are the framework so that individuals, corporate organizations, and government can use to really quickly, level up the understanding of fintech.
So your new sort of announcement and service is about a way to quickly assess where employers or people and teams are in terms of their fintech digital maturity, and after that be able to see where the gaps are, so in order to be able to work with them and fill in the gaps, correct?
Yeah, so as you've seen, the pandemic has just accelerating. The economy worldwide have suffered, and recent, geopolitical events have just make it very worse in terms of global condition, with a lot of uncertainty, and it's very unpredictable, with people who might be losing jobs, etc. So it's about a balancing act between the companies and the individuals in terms of hiring in the fintech industry, and especially when there are constant innovations in the market. So how can company need to find the best candidates and individuals with the right skills, the right skill set? So what are these? So we've spent a lot of time and discussing with governments, corporations, CEOs of fintech companies, what are the framework comes into make the job position with individuals with the right skills. And so we come up with our framework, which I don't know if you see, it's SHIME. So I don't know if you know SHIME. It's the 5 aspects of SHIME framework.
Okay.
That are made up of 5 aspects. So SHIME, and I probably ask you what could be SHIME. So S for what could be the one that one must develop to get into the fintech industry?
S for, I don't know, security.
Security. Soft skills. So it's really important that individuals must develop the right soft skills. And H for, what do you think H could be?
I have to get in the
Unfortunately,
mindset. This is going to be like the
no.
show that, you know, Chris Skinner and Mary just launched this funny show where they're sort of joking about fintech. Okay, so H is for what is it? No, it's not QR code. If it was a Q, I would say QR code.
So H for hard skills, and hard
Hard
skills
skills.
are
Okay.
capabilities that can be quantified. So it's for hard skills can be,
Coding.
examine and assess to
Yeah.
an exam or project, such as a programming language, Python, or open banking regulations. So most emphasis in acquiring and showing know-how in hard skills.
Yeah.
So hard skills tend to be very specific on the jobs, but the hard skills is of a data scientist would be very different from a product manager, for example. So this is why there are some hard skills that are useful for some of the roles, but some are just more job specific. Soft skills I mentioned is much more about, the character traits of an individual. It's about communication, decision making, collaboration, and leadership.
Yeah.
So what do you
Is
think
for
for the I?
innovation.
No,
No.
industry knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really important if you want to acquire to get into the fintech industry, and because you are an advocate, you are
Yeah.
one of the very knowledgeable person, is to really get always knowledgeable of what's happening in the fintech industry from general to sectors. So we encourage at CFT a lot of people to be perhaps less technical skills, but much more the need for those interested in fintech to understand and clarify the nuance of the sector they wish to join as a start. So this is for us very important. It's about the trends, the application and technologies. It's about the main players in the ecosystem and the regulations. So that is for shine, and then M for mindset. So the mindset is something we care a lot because, having been, perhaps a lot of people have been working into the fintech in the finance industry is really sometimes difficult to change. So this ability to change, resilience, comfortable with ambiguity, adaptability, being a problem solver. So, and what I would say, something that perhaps it's hard for many people, is to think like an entrepreneur. Not necessarily be an entrepreneur. I'm not saying you should all join and start build your startup, but how do you think like an entrepreneur? It's the mindset will help you to get into the new job in fintech.
You're not just completing tasks that were given to you. You can think beyond your task and whatever's going on in the group and in the project, and contribute in whatever way, whether it's to avert a risk or to contribute in another way. Yeah. And E is for entrepreneurship.
No.
0 on the exam.
No, E is for experience. And experience is knowledge or skills developed in jobs or activities. Is how do you prove to your employer that you have an experience in fintech? Entry-level jobs or internship are rare in fintech, consequently making work duration and accreditation account for experience in fintech really hard. So how do you get those experience? So that could be a degree, or working in the fintech startups, or large financial institutions, or consulting, or government and policymaker. But those are in general, how do you prove to your employer that you have this experience in fintech? So that is something we think the way that we can really assess and help employers to perhaps avoid unnecessary staff turnover and hiring cost, but candidate can find job that they are really well suited and that they can perform very well. So based on the SHINE framework, we hope to help individuals, organization, and government to get people that are really traditional to get into those new jobs of the future in fintech or financial services.
And obviously it doesn't mean that this is for people that want to necessarily change jobs, but, you know, change within them, so to speak, by staying in the same even position and so on. But if you change all this and you shine, then you can do a better job, right? And go with the organization if they are going, you know, undergoing the digital transformation that is necessary. Correct.
Exactly. It's not. It's very much to help, and it's not about a scoring. We are not scoring anyone, but we are just trying to bring awareness of what do you have as an individual and what are the gaps, and it's for one individual to assess, you know, where, you know, the person needs to upskill and reskill, and then in that case, after that, complete that shine framework. It's not at all about having all the score in every of the shine, you know, pillars.
And what I hear from you, Tram Anh, is really an approach at a broader level of digital and technology that either big tech companies or the public sector is also taking and looking at, you know, a framework to evaluate digital skills, where the gaps are, and then you go into very specific sectors, cybersecurity, for example, which is very well known, you know, the huge increasing needs and gaps that we have. And here you are doing this for the fintech industry, as it's, you know, whether in certain regions it's more tech and others more fin, it doesn't matter, but it's really also a sector that is digitally transforming and needs this. And it's a very complicated and core sector, right? I mean, we have expertise. I have no expertise in insurance, for example. It's part of financial services. I would score very low in the industry knowledge, whether it is regulation or you know, all sorts of things. So there's a lot to be done in this area. What about your amazing job report that you launched last year? Will you be monitoring the job market and sharing with us updates on this front? Are there any qualitative changes beyond the numbers and the quantitative changes?
Yes, no, thanks a lot. And you were one of the first, you know, to support our report. And I'm really grateful for that. Yes, we spent a lot of time during COVID because you've seen, you know, there is a rise of the fintech industry, which we did a big analysis of the top jobs that are being created by the fintech unicorns. So it was in 2000. It was in 21. We decided to with the collaboration of the top 225 largest fintech unicorns around the world, where we said, what are the jobs that are being created? What are the jobs that are being created? Because there were no taxonomy of job. If you ask a bank and the HR, they will give, you know, all the list of the jobs, you know, being created. But if you ask, let's say, a Revolut or, you know, a Wise, they wouldn't have. So it was a big job from our team to go and search for those jobs that are being created. And from there, we did, we listed, analyzed these 40,000 new jobs that was not created before. And from there, we put them into different categories. And the finding was really interesting because from there, we did a taxonomy of job and all the skills and the competencies needed so that one can just find their way to become digital marketer, digital compliance officer, data scientist. What are the skills I need if I'm in traditional role to be able to transfer my skills or add to more skills so that I can become one of the new jobs that are being created in fintech and the future of financial services. But if I have to summarize the finding of the job report we done, and I will perhaps share with you, I don't know if you see, is technology is eating finance. It was really, really clear for us that if you don't understand technology, you can't be into any job in fintech or the future of finance. So for us, it was very, very strong. It means that fintech are much closer to tech companies than finance. So it means that we have a huge, effort to upskill. And to come back to your point, yes, we are updating it on a regular basis. And this is the job. So we've launched after that the blockchain job report, which we've done the same job with the taxonomy of job in blockchain and Web3 with the whole industry. And we will be continuing updating the fintech job report, which is available and free for anyone who wants to learn more. And EFI was very kind to support our work on this. And after that, we will do on blockchain. And the idea is after that to do much more into verticals or into countries to support the industry.
Blockchain for finance, however, right? Yes.
Blockchain for finance. Yes. Blockchain for finance. Yes.
Yes. And there's so much going on. I mean, who knows? It will be the Web3 probably is the next step, but we need to take it slowly. Raman, I want to thank you for sharing all these insights, and happy to have you on the show. And of course, we'll talk again the next year and hear from you, from the world that you are training and teaching, how are things going, because definitely it's a time where there's a lot of different, I would say, forces. There's layoffs in the fintech industry. On the other hand, there is a lot of building and innovation, especially in the blockchain Web3 part. So there's pockets of growth, of inspiration, of innovation. There's a bit of consolidation in certain areas depending on the countries, and so on. So there's a lot of movement that we need to be aware of, and always the people and making sure that they can survive and be resilient in this fragility that we all live in, right?
Yes, totally. Yes, yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much, Traman, for sharing your fresh takeaways from the festival and updating us on CFTE.